Om Namah Shivaya. So this evening we continue to share teachings about the path of Hatha Yoga. And this morning we introduce one of the main authoritative texts on this sacred path of Hatha Yoga, known as the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, again coming from either the 14th or 15th century, and one of the main scriptures that describes the whole path of Hatha Yoga. It's really a manual for very advanced practitioners how to achieve the goals of Hatha Yoga. In our tradition, this is the main text that we study in relation to Hatha Yoga, as this was what Swami Vishnudevananda was following and practicing in his own personal sadhana. And we shared this morning a bit in the introductory verse, so the first verse, where we learn that this science of Hatha Yoga comes to us from Lord Shiva, coming from the Supreme Being, as this is a divine knowledge that teaches us how to go back to the source. And particularly, Hatha Yoga is taught as a ladder to be able to reach Raja Yoga, meaning mind control or the superconscious state. So it is a science of prana that teaches us how to become masters of the prana. And as a result of that, becomes masters of the mind. That's what Hatha Yoga ultimately is about. And then this morning, we shared that in this first chapter, which is a chapter that mostly focuses on asanas, there is also description of some preliminary aspects of the sadhana. And we share that there is here Yogi Swatmarama, the author, is describing 6 main causes of failure in our sadhana. 6 main causes that make us unable to succeed in this path of controlling the prana and ultimately controlling the mind. Anybody remembers some of the 6? Overeating, that's the first one. Second, what is the second one also? Too much fatigue, that was the second one, very good. And talking too much was the third one. All these we explained this morning. Anybody remembers what were the other 3? We didn't explain them, but laziness, that would be a good one, but that's not that's not one of them here. Laziness is mentioned later in the scripture actually, but not in this verse. The other ones were following unsuitable niyamas, so unsuitable observances, keeping company with unsuitable people, this is true, and being fickle-minded. That was the last one. So just to explain a few of these other 3 that we didn't mention this morning. So following unsuitable observances, here Swamiji explains that that sometimes some spiritual seekers would take these vows that are very extreme for the sake of devotion and willpower, like taking very long fasts and things as such. But in this path of Hatha Yoga, one has to keep a lot of balance. Otherwise, the body may get sick or the body may get weak. And for the path of Hatha Yoga, you need a lot of strength to be able to carry on the sadhana, to be able to sit and practice asanas regularly, pranayama seriously. You need a lot of vigor. And some austerities can be weakening for the body. So these are what's called unsuitable observances. Or sometimes some yogis sit in the sun and surround themselves with fire and things like this that could be valuable at some times, but when one is seriously in the path of Hatha Yoga, he or she has to keep a very moderate living in order to be able to keep all the energy available for the sadhana. And then keeping company with unsuitable people, here this means that the spiritual seeker has to be very alert in terms of how our mind gets impacted by our association. So certain association will diminish our inspiration, our commitment to the practice, will make our mind start having other priorities, where pranayama or asanas or meditation or God is not anymore at the highest priority. The main thing is that the goal of life becomes less clear and less focused. The moment that our association brings our mind away from God, naturally it will bring the mind away from the sadhana. Meaning, if we're not very inspired about the goal, we will also have less motivation to put the effort that is required. And some company weakens our faith in the teaching, weakens our faith in God or Guru, and that is something that will be a major hindrance in our dedication to the sadhana. So, this doesn't mean that anybody is bad, definitely not, but what the yogis are teaching, we should be aware of how our mind is impacted by association. Definitely, it's highly affected. So, we need to learn to choose association that will lead us towards happiness instead of take us down. Now, many times people ask, well, maybe I have family members that are bringing me down. Maybe I have in my workplace people that are bringing me down. How do I deal with that? You know, if there's certain association that we cannot avoid. That is for sure. But what Swami Sivananda teaches, of course, love all, serve all, be kind to all. So meaning certain associations we may not be able to avoid. But if we come with the right mental attitude to any association, we will be able to be less affected by it. We will be able to keep our mind elevated by it. If there is a clear intention that this interaction is an opportunity to serve God, then we'll be uplifted by this interaction. But we have to just be aware. Many times we associate without this intention of service, without this intention of being kind and being loving. And if we're not aware and it's a wrong association, the mind will go down. So, of course, we should serve all and love all and be kind to all, but at the same time, we need to be practical and see the impact on the mind. And then we need to learn to choose how to manage our time well, so we don't go down. And finally, Yogi Sotmarama says, in being fickle-minded. So this is a main cause of inability to succeed on the path, this lack of focus and lack of commitment, lack of dedication, where we may finish the TTC being very inspired to do asanas every day, but one day we feel like doing asanas, one day we feel like going for a ride on the bike, one day we feel like going traveling, one day we prefer doing this, one day this yoga, that yoga, and there is not that capacity to stay focused. So then, obviously, we cannot expect substantial benefits, substantial results. It always remains quite shallow. So this is not a judgment, because we all struggle with that. Every mind has this tendency of being fickle-minded, not dedicated. So one of the most important things in our spiritual journey is to learn how to rededicate the mind and to gradually make it stronger and stronger. What we call abhyasa, this steady, inspired, committed practice. But that's something that needs to be cultivated. Otherwise, the mind will ever be fickle. So these are what Yogi Sotmarama says, the 6 causes of destroying our sadhana, or not being able to really progress. Now, in the next verse, Yogi Sotmarama also gives us the causes for success in the sadhana. Thank God, not just the things that take us down, but also what are the things that we need to do that will allow us to succeed in the sadhana. So these are the 6. Yoga flourishes with the following 6 causes: enthusiasm, firm resolve, courage, knowledge of truth, determination, and giving up a company of unsuitable people. So this is repeated here. And basically, you will see that these 6 causes of success are the opposites of these causes of failure. So in the causes of failure, what we see that the most important thing is what Yogi Sotmarama is talking is about keeping a life of balance, a life of moderation, not talking too much, not eating too much, not getting overly exhausted. We need to keep a life of balance. Then we can focus and be qualified to succeed in the sadhana. Now, what are these 6 causes of success? First and foremost, enthusiasm. The yoga practice should never ever be mechanical, meaning when we come to the yoga mat, when we come for the meditation seat, there should be joy about it. There should be excitement about it. There should be an understanding of the value of this great opportunity to be on the yoga mat, to be on the meditation seat. And when we come to chant Jai Ganesha, we need to be excited about it, even if it's twice a day, 7 days a week, for years, for years. Otherwise, the benefits are not much there. They are there, definitely, always. But what really makes the sadhana powerful and dynamic is that enthusiasm. And this is a whole big thing, to learn how to cultivate enthusiasm. You see, the first step is just to learn how to be regular, to come back to the seat, to the yoga mat again and again, not to miss the practice. The other thing is how to come back to it and to be fully alive in the practice, to be inspired. This is something that we need to learn how to cultivate. And the yogis give us many different techniques of how to do that. Of course, one main one is to remember the benefits, to study about the benefits, to be reminded about the benefits. Then there will be some motivation. Another way is by having, of course, satsang. When we are associating with people who are enthusiastic about sadhana, that is infectious, it is contagious. That is the idea behind satsang, that people who are high will help others also become elevated, high. They're inspired about the practice. So if we are lacking in enthusiasm, we need to seek company of people who are enthusiastic about the practice. So remembering the benefits, satsanga. Then another very powerful way to cultivate enthusiasm is by having gratitude in the practice. The yogis teach us when we are practicing to be grateful. That when we begin our practice, to express gratitude. When we end a practice, to express gratitude. Why do you think gratitude will make us enthusiastic? Many reasons, really. But if you are grateful, you notice all the wonderful things. Exactly. Gratitude means the capacity to appreciate the blessing, to appreciate the opportunity. See, enthusiasm comes from appreciating something. When we really understand the value of something, we will be enthusiastic. When we understand what this 1 hour on the yoga mat can do for me, we will be inspired about it. When we understand what this half an hour of meditation can do for my mind, for my happiness, for my freedom, we are enthusiastic about it. When we know why chanting is so good for us, we don't want to miss it, because we know how good it is for us. And gratitude helps us to become aware of how good things are. See, it opens our mind to appreciate things. And when we appreciate, we will be excited. We will be enthusiastic. So when we train ourselves to practice with gratitude, it will immediately pull the mind from whatever it's overwhelmed with and remind us this is a great gift. The Lord has given me a wonderful opportunity to spend half an hour, 1 hour in sadhana, to do something that is going to be elevating for me and for everyone else. The more that we are elevated, everybody benefits from it. So when we have gratitude, it opens us to see the grace, helps us to see the blessings. Then when we see the grace, we are excited, we are inspired. So remembering the benefits, connecting with others who are enthusiastic, gratitude. And another one that we can share tonight that is very powerful for becoming more enthusiastic is to learn to dedicate one's practice. This is very important. So to dedicate the practice to the Guru, to dedicating the practice to God, to dedicating the fruits of the practice or the benefits for the upliftment of everyone. Swamiji used to explain that when we are practicing Hatha Yoga, we are dedicating the practice so our astral body will become a body of light that will bring more knowledge and light to the world. So raising our body and mind to the highest vibration for the benefit of everyone. So when we dedicate our practice, we become in tune with a higher aspect of ourselves. The mind opens up to this higher inspiration that is there. That when we are just thinking in a mundane way about our life and about what we do, that inspiration doesn't come into us. But the moment that there is a higher purpose behind the practice, we are elevated. So to learn to regularly offer the practice to the Guru, offer the practice to God, to the benefit of all, we will be very excited about this opportunity. That grace will come within us, operating. So enthusiasm is key. Because you see, without enthusiasm, we cannot sustain the regularity. That's why it's so important. Without enthusiasm, we cannot practice every day. We cannot practice an hour a day or 2 hours a day, or we cannot bring the mind back. We cannot discipline ourselves really without enthusiasm. Swami Chidananda, the successor of Master Sivananda, wrote a beautiful essay about finding joy in the practice. And Swamiji says that only when there is a lot of joy in the practice can become deep. Otherwise, the mind will not properly focus. So one has to be enthusiastic for the practice to be really effective. So then the next one is firm resolve. So if we want to be successful in our sadhana, we have to cultivate the strength of our resolution. So there's different ways of how we strengthen our resolution. One of the ways that Swami Sivananda recommends is that you write your resolution down and you send it to your guru, to your guide. You sign it and you send it. And this basically will make you very accountable. Less chance of breaking the resolve. That is the idea. You see, without a firm resolve, there is no way to succeed. Why? Why if there's no firm resolve? You will just not exact. Why won't you do it? There's always things happening. And where are these things happening? In the mind, meaning always there is going to be past tendencies that are going to be keep rising up in the mind, the past samskaras. All the samskaras that are away from the practice, they will keep rising. And they will be a major force to take us away, to give up the practice, to put priority for something else. So, and things will be difficult for sure. So without a firm resolve, the commitment will not be there. So then, this is the second one. Then the third one is courage. So naturally, one has to have a lot of courage, not to be afraid of the challenges that will be there, not to be afraid of the difficulty. So one has to have courage. That is the key. Then Swamiji writes, Yogi Sotmarama describes the fourth thing here, knowledge of truth. And here Swami Vishnu, in the commentary on this verse, he explains knowledge of truth means to have even to a certain degree of understanding about our true nature. Not self-realization yet, of course, but to have a certain understanding that one is not this body, not this mind. This understanding has to be there for the sadhana to be successful. Which practically what it means that one has to be studying the scriptures in combination with the Hatha Yoga practice. One has to study the Vedantic text, the devotional text, while doing the Hatha Yoga sadhana. Otherwise, it will not really be effective. Otherwise, Swamiji explains, if we just do pranayama and do asanas without a certain without growing in knowledge of the self, without growing in viveka and vairagya and devotion, then the sadhana will just build up the ego. And as long as there's a strong body identification, doesn't matter how much pranayama we do, there will be no real benefits. There will be no real happiness. The ego will just get bigger, just feeling more proud and no clear understanding of who we are. So Swamiji explains that when we do the Hatha Yoga sadhana, there should always be the clarity of what this is all about, to be able to free oneself from false identifications. And that can only really come from the study of the scriptures. So when we say knowledge of truth, means that the yogi has to also study the sacred text of Vedanta in combination for it to really be a yoga. Otherwise, it's not gonna give the real benefits. And the next one is determination. So here one needs to learn how to be ever determined in the practice, and how to give up the unsuitable company. So one, in addition, just like we said in the causes of failure, this is also the cause of success. One has to learn to manage his or her association. And of course, unsuitable company doesn't just mean who we physically associate with, but even what we watch on the phone, the different types of exposure of the mind. This is all association. What we expose our mind to, what we read, what we listen to, what we watch, this is all company. So certain type of exposure will fill the mind with rajas and tamas and will be a major hindrance for our capacity to go deeper. So one has to be aware that his or her association is gradually more and more sattvic for the mind to be capable of meditation. And when it's not sattvic, we make it sattvic with our intention of seeing God there and serving there. But we should be aware that eventually being much in a tamasic and rajasic environment will definitely also bring our mind down. So we have to make our choices. We see, if we want to really help others, and that's ultimately what many times bring us into this company or that company, our desire to help, we should understand that we only can really help if we help ourselves. If we are elevated, we can help others to be elevated. So this should always be clear in our mind, that we take time away for the sake of actually being of better service. That should always be kept clear in our mind. So these are the 6 causes of success and the 6 causes of failure. And tomorrow morning, we'll share just a few more verses that are very important and about the value of the path of Hatha Yoga and really how to achieve the maximum success in this path. We'll share a few more important verses tomorrow morning. Om Tat Sat.